You know, as we discovered in the children's skit, you know, the metaphor of the steering wheel of life is something I want to just bring to our awareness today. Who holds our wheel with us, and who in turn are we holding a wheel for? Through the coincidence or serendipity, last year, the death of Robin Williams coincided with Carrie Underwood's concert here in Jacksonville. And it led me to think about how we as Unitarian Universalists deal with crisis. Sometimes we play 50s music. You know, indeed, when we look at Robin Williams, it would appear that he had all the resources in the world, right? A caring family, certainly all the money he needed, good medical attention, good support in addiction management, and yet the struggles of living proved to be too difficult. Recent reports from medical experts in the autopsy report indicate that Robin Williams might have been suffering from Lewy body dementia, which is a type of dementia in Parkinson's. And that could have exacerbated his condition. But nonetheless, it strikes us how powerful addiction, family crises, other tragedies can affect us. Take a moment and listen to what Robert Frost writes in his poem, Lodged. The rain to the wind said, "You push and I'll pelt." And so they smote the garden bed, that the flowers actually knelt and lay lodged, though not dead. I know how the flowers felt. I know how the flowers felt. And I think everyone in this room has been in that situation, where in our lives we reached a point of desperation, a point where we admitted, anybody that's been to an AA meeting, that we could not do it by ourselves, didn't have the energy to go on, couldn't solve that problem. Unitarian Universalists have a strong tradition of individualism, independent thought, individual freedom, self-rule, and self-determination. This tradition of strong individualism goes back to our roots as European heretics and as early American Puritan Congregationalists. And it was further inspired by the readings of Emerson and Thoreau. From the Enlightenment period right through our postmodern times, we proudly carry our humanist banner. It has served us well against the onslaught of crisis over the centuries. And so I thought about Carrie Underwood's song, and I asked myself, what would a Unitarian Universalist do in the same situation? And although I can only speak for myself, I invite you to envision my UU interpretation of this song. Universe, take the wheel. Never mind, I got it. Indeed, most of us would begin confronting our problem with our rational base. We understand and we respect natural law and the consequences that it brings, whether natural disaster, addiction, a major illness, mental health issues. We understand that's where we begin. But we also know that life is bigger than us. It takes more than the I to get through life. Though by and large, many of us may not believe in a personal deity that would directly intervene. In addition to our individualism, our Unitarian Universalist tradition also includes two other strong branches. First is the tradition of being interconnected, community-minded, in need of other for our health and well-being, referred to in our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, for which we are a part. And second, the awareness of the transcendent, that we are indeed part of a bigger picture, that there is more than science and reason and self-made individualism. And however we define the divine or the transcendent and connect with it, whether it's through music that we get to hear with Jeannie and Thomas so beautifully, whether it is through our prayer, through meditation, through yoga, through our community interconnection, the universe is indeed larger than us. Listen to the words that many of you know, but I'm going to read the whole sentence. It was later paraphrased by Martin Luther King. But the original words of 19th century abolitionist and Unitarian minister Theodore Parker are the follows. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve or complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I can see, I'm sure it bends toward justice. It is, as the mystics of all faith traditions tell us, though most of us, including myself, cannot comprehend it, that even in times of crisis, all is well. All is well. As author and spiritual guide Philip Goldberg notes in his book, Road Signs, Navigating Your Path to Spiritual Happiness, no matter how much darkness may reign on the surface, existence at its depth is light. You can access the luminous essence at any time. It won't undo the loss that you've suffered or close the door on future pain. But turning toward the holy can bring you peace in the moment. Goldberg goes on to relate a story that speaks to the paradox that we experience. And paradox is a good thing. It brings conflicting elements together because conflicting elements all have a portion of the truth. He writes, in the midst of the Holocaust, a group of Jews who were imprisoned at Auschwitz put God on trial. When the guilty verdict was read, the presiding rabbi said, "The trial is over. It's time for evening prayers." Let's take a moment and absorb that. In the depth of paradox that this story demonstrates, it is the blend of these traditions, self-reliance, interconnectedness, and transcendence, appreciating that all of these make us strong in diversity. Friedrich Nietzsche said quite appropriately, "What doesn't kill you will make you stronger." But how are we made stronger? By becoming more individually strong? Or by becoming more aware of the paradox that it is in our weakness that we are strong because we reach out to others. It is in knowing that we are interdependent that makes us individually whole. Having someone hold the wheel does not mean to control, cure, manipulate, or have power over another person. Conversely, it doesn't mean enabling or being used by another. And those of us that have held the wheels understand sometimes that can happen. It does mean realistic support, affirmation, acknowledgement, empathy, empowerment, caring without losing perspectives. Those are important words, but they're empowering words. They're not taking control away. And it's all about love and how we understand love. As the poet Maya Angelou wrote, love is that condition in the human spirit so profound that it empowers us to develop courage, to trust that that courage will build bridges with it, and to trust that these bridges will be ones that we can cross over so we can attempt to reach each other. Love, building courage, building bridges, allowing us to reach out to each other. Psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl writes, "We must never forget that we may also find meaning in life, even when confronted with a hopeless situation, when facing a fate that cannot be changed. For what then matters is to bear witness to the uniquely human potential at its best, which is to transform personal tragedy into triumph, to turn one predicament into human achievement. When we are no longer able to change a situation, think of an incurable disease such as inoperable cancer, we are challenged to change ourselves." Now, we all have our own descriptive examples of what Viktor Frankl is talking about. We don't have to wait to reach an incurable disease, though, to change ourselves. This is who we are as people today. I want to read one story here. This is by Elizabeth Plate, and she speaks of the metaphor of holding space. I want to talk about that for our idea of holding the wheel and how we support one another in this congregation, in our family, and in the world. She wrote 2 articles to help define what that means, to hold space for others and for ourselves. And I'm going to post these articles on our web page and Facebook page. She writes, "When my mom was dying, my siblings and I gathered to be with her in her final days. None of us knew anything about supporting someone in their transition out of this life into the next, but we were pretty sure we wanted to keep her at home, so we did. While we supported Mom, we were in turn supported by a gifted palliative care nurse, Anne, who came every few days to care for Mom and talk to us about what we could expect in the coming days. She taught us how to inject Mom with morphine when she became restless, and she offered to do the difficult tasks like giving Mom a bath. And she gave us only as much information as we needed to know what to do with Mom's body after her spirit had passed. Now, Anne gave us an incredible gift in those final days, and though it was an excruciating week, we knew we were being held by someone who was only a phone call away. She was much more than what can fit in the title of a palliative care nurse. She was a facilitator, coach, guide. By offering non-judgmental support and guidance, she helped us walk through one of the most difficult journeys in our lives. She was holding space for us. What does it mean to hold space for someone else? It means that we are willing to walk alongside another person in whatever journey they're on, without judging them, making them feel inadequate, trying to fix them, or trying to impact the outcome. When we hold space for other people, we open our hearts, offer unconditional support, and let go of judgment and control. Sometimes we find ourselves holding space for people while they hold space for others. For example, Anne the nurse was holding space for the family while the family was holding space for Mom. Truly, holding the wheel for others and ourselves, these are the spiritual moments for Unitarian Universalists. These are what give us meaning and a view of the transcendent. So for those of you who are at home, you'll see on your screen a handout that we're going to be looking at. And those of you who are here, this is a Unitarian Universalist congregation, so you don't have to do anything if you so choose. But if you would like, there's actually a pencil. And in this sheet, our wheel of life, it's a metaphor. If anybody doesn't have a handout, we have some more in the back. Does everybody have one? So the handout is just for illustration. It certainly doesn't capture every aspect, although I did talk to a number of people to try to make sure I covered the bases as best I could. But it gives you enough to go on, and you can add your own areas as needed. And you don't have to do this all today, but I'd like you to take a moment in your reflection time today or sometime this week, to look at this wheel of support and raise conscious awareness of it for yourself. I think it would be important to, again, raise the level of awareness in some of these areas. And support is not only defined as people, okay? It could be meditation, it could be nature, yoga, coursework, exercise, music. The wheelhouse is expansive. So what people, places, things, activities do you turn to in your life journey? For example, for your spiritual growth, you might think of here at UUCJ, or perhaps specifically the spiritual studies group, or playing with ideas that meets beforehand. For your physical well-being, you may run or walk or go to the gym. And then there's core areas that are your hub. For example, they transcend various areas. Meditation and natural surroundings may support your spiritual, physical, and emotional well-being. And as you look at this, if there's areas that have blank spaces, for example, if you haven't been to the doctors in a while, maybe you've been neglecting your medical health. If you haven't read a challenging book, maybe you're not exercising your brain. So when you look at these areas, if there's something missing, you might just want to be aware of it, just for yourself. Now, this is a tool for you to use, and on the bottom, you'll see something that we say, the wheelhouse of other people. And again, it's helping to raise your awareness. Who is in your wheelhouse of support? If you've been married for a long time, maybe there's something you want to look at in the wheelhouse of support for your spouse or your significant other that maybe was something you did 10 years ago but you're not doing today. This wheelhouse of support for others might lead you to say, by the way, I am a support. I think of Mavis and David, and David's been a wheelhouse support for Mavis, and other people around this room that in our caring committee, that you become a wheelhouse of support for others, and that's really important. And so sometimes you forget that and say, wait a second, you know what? I am a wheelhouse. That person really depends on me, and not in a negative way, but in a positive way. And so maybe I need to send that card out to my daughter, or my mom, or someone else, or a friend. Or maybe I need to cook a meal and bring it over that they wouldn't expect. Or maybe just say, I'd like to offer you a ride somewhere else. Let's go out. Because I'm helping to hold that wheel for that person. And it's maybe not just in one little area, maybe it's actually in a bigger area. Maybe that person actually counts on me for more than the little thing I'm giving them and would like to be in a more expansive relationship in that wheel. So, we have your homework, and but more importantly, it's to think about, we as Unitarian Universalists, we come from this tradition of strong self, independent thinking, independent freedom, and that's really important. But with that comes the sense of interconnectedness and interdependentness, and also for us, as we struggle to understand what is that transcendence in our lives that helps to connect us in that picture. So, Jesus, universe, inner light, friends and family, interconnected web of existence, take the wheel. Thank you.